Teenage girl with autism forced to live in a basement. She was allegedly being treated, quote, like an animal, coming to school covered in human feces because she wasn't allowed to use the bathroom at home.
Fox 6 investigator Megan Dwyer has been following this story closely and has uncovered disturbing evidence that Waukesha County social workers knew about the girl's living conditions years before anything was done. Megan joins us now in studio with the story.
Neighbors, teachers, even police officers knew something wasn't right. Over the course of 2.5 years, this child's family was reported for alleged child abuse at least half a dozen times. And over again, almost nothing was done. This is the house where prosecutors say Patrick and Allison Keller locked their daughter in an unfinished basement every day after school. Neighbors say they didn't even know the couple had a teenage daughter. Brookfield police first searched the home in March after an anonymous caller reported the child was being treated like an animal. But this was not the first time police had been called. In fact, according to police records, the family had been investigated at least 10 times between 2012 and 2014.
It's disturbing. That's why we go through the lengths that we do, because we don't want to see those kinds of things happening, nor when they're brought to our attention, do we want to see those kinds of things continuing.
In August of 2012, a neighbor took this video of Patrick Keller screaming obscenities at one of his children. Police could not substantiate abuse and the investigation was closed.
I don't feel like our hands are tied, but again, sometimes the laws don't always work with us. Sometimes we just can't prove the elements of the crime.
In fact, all of the investigations were closed because police didn't have enough evidence. But the cases were still referred to the Waukesha County Department of Health and Human Services for review.
Is it disturbing sometimes? Yes, that we're not able to bring some charges forth to the district attorney's office, or that we don't see an ending that we think really should be the proper ending.
Even in June of last year, when the autistic teenager wandered out of her home and was found by a neighbor who called 911, her mother told police, quote, "I don't care if the county comes. This isn't the first time you've been called about this stuff. What are they going to do? Take me to jail? This is the third time I've lost her today." And then there were the reports by the school. Teachers at Elmwood Elementary reported their concerns about alleged child abuse 3 times between 2013 and 2014, when the girl showed up at her school with marks on her wrists and face. The girl told her teachers her stepfather, Pat, did it. When police interviewed her mom, she said her daughter was the problem.
I think a lot of people would just not want to associate with her, and frankly, he's getting sick of this social worker stuff and getting involved, because it just seems like every year something comes up with social workers.
Police records show at least 3 social workers were involved with the family between 2012 and 2014. All of them worked for the Waukesha County Department of Health and Human Services, but none of them permanently removed the child from her home. In the spring of 2014, Lutheran Social Services actually went inside the girl's home. A social worker reported seeing the teen's living conditions: a room in the basement with cement block walls, concrete floors, a single cot, and a box of pull-up diapers. Lutheran Social Services reported their findings to Waukesha County, but still, the girl was left to live there. Even though her mother had admitted she called the girl stink and locked her in the basement every day from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Nobody should live like that.
This winter, Wisconsin Hills Middle School reported 7 times the girl came to school covered in dry feces. It was in her hair and coming out of the sleeves of her shirt. The school told the Waukesha County Department of Health and Human Services what was going on, but the teen was allowed to keep going back home, back to the basement. That is until March, when the Waukesha County District Attorney's Office finally charged Allison and Patrick Keller with child neglect. Mr. and Mrs. Keller, do you have any comment on this case? Did you lock your daughter in the basement? In court, they didn't object when prosecutors told them they couldn't see their daughter.
We want people with autism to be treated like they're people.
Emily Levine, the executive director of the Autism Society of Southeastern Wisconsin, says stories like these are heartbreaking, but they can be prevented.
What I always tell new families is you don't get to choose the cards you're dealt. You get to choose how you play your hand. And how you respond to that adversity really reveals your character.
Levine urges parents who might be at the end of their rope to get help.
You don't have to start at square one. We're here to provide support and training to help you live a good life. And it is possible to have a good life with autism.
Teachers and neighbors who know the girl forced to live in this basement say they hope she too will have a good life eventually, but they wonder why it took so long for Waukesha County to protect her. The Waukesha County Department of Health and Human Services did not return our calls. Allison and Patrick Keller have both pleaded not guilty to child neglect. They refused to speak with us in court that day. Their daughter is now living with her biological father.
So just for clarification purposes, the County Department of Health and Human Services that have been contacted numerous times, is that the same thing as Child Protective Services, or CPS as we refer to it?
Yes, in Wisconsin, all of these matters, child abuse issues, are dealt with on a county level. Health and Human Services is the agency that actually removes children from their homes. There's some indication this child was in foster care for a short period before 2012, but she was returned to her home. All of those records are private, so we can't actually see for sure what happened or who exactly dropped the ball.
Hopefully she'll have a better future. Megan, thank you.